Is rework your enemy? Product teams generally like to try and avoid rework, and I think there are two key reasons why they try to do this. The first is because of the cost element. Whenever you do rework, you're essentially tearing up what you did first and investing additional time and cost and effort in redoing it. And very often you might have done something and you would have done additional work on top of it, and when you try and go back to the core of it and do the rework, there is a lot more extra rework than just reworking on that small thing. To give an example, let's say you built a house, you're building a house, and there is this wall that you built and you painted it, you did the electricals, you did the flooring, and now if you have to break down that wall, it's not just the cost of breaking the wall and rebuilding it. You also have to paint it, you also have to do the electricals all over again, you probably even have to change the flooring. The second reason why teams avoid rework is because of a psychological element. When something is done and you think it's finished, there is a reluctance to go back and rework on that, because you think in your mind that it's done, why do you need to go back and do that all over again? So there is a certain inertia, if you would, or there is a certain resistance to doing that, which teams will need to overcome if they have to do the rework. That said, in the product development world, it is impossible to avoid rework at all times. Two key reasons why you would end up needing to do rework. One is that you don't always know what is it that customers will want and like. So you might build something, when you show it to customers, you'll get feedback based on which you might need to change a few things, and that means rework. And the second reason is that you might know what the customer wants, but what you developed is slightly different from what you and the customer envisaged. What the product development team developed is different from what you envisaged, and again, that leads to rework. The key thing to keep in mind about rework is that rework early on in the development cycle is a lot cheaper than rework later on in the development cycle. So you want to set up your product development sprint cycles in such a way that you're getting feedback early and feedback often, so that you can try to avoid the rework. There are several techniques that you could adopt in your product development life cycle to get this feedback early and often. Some of them are things like doing wireframes and click-through prototypes, which you can actually show to your customers and end users to get feedback. Another thing that you could do is to have sprint end demos, where you get feedback from critical stakeholders on work that's been completed. So if there is any change that needs to be done, you can do it immediately before you add more work on top of it. Another thing you could try is to prioritize your user stories in such a way that you work on the critical pieces sooner, so that you get feedback on those sooner. I'd done a video on this topic some time back about a non-linear MVP, which could give you inspiration for if you want to try something like that. There is a third reason why you might need to do rework, and that's because customer preferences and industry landscape is constantly changing, and the way you did things, let's say 6 months back, may not be relevant today, and because of that, you might still need to do some rework. And it is important for product development teams to keep an open mindset, so that they're open to the possibility of having to revisit whatever they've done and rework things and improve things all the time. Remember, progress over perfection. One word of caution on this though. Often when you make changes, you will have to make changes to a lot of things to do it properly. But in the interest of time and cost, product teams very often take shortcuts, and that's what leads to technical debt. Now, technical debt is not a topic that we will dive into today. That is a topic that will require several videos dedicated to that subject, and that's something we will explore down the line. Now, if you're facing challenges with rework in your organization and you want to look at ways in which you could reduce some of those, give me a shout. I would love to have a conversation. Thank you for watching and have a good one.